Another day, another story. Europe existed as a conceptual construct long before geographers began arguing whether there are 7 continents or 6. The latter model considers Europe and Asia to be a single continent. The ancient Greeks divided the world into 3 major units: Europe, Asia, and Libya, the last of which referred to the known northern portion of Africa. Those were the divisions that Ptolemy used when he laid out his map of the world in the Guide to Geography, Geographic Hyphagesis, in the 2nd century CE. Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. So the notion of Europe is very old, but where does the name come from? The name Europe has its origins in ancient Greek mythology. It is believed to be derived from the Greek myth of Europa, a Phoenician princess abducted by Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, who took the form of a bull. According to the myth, Zeus fell in love with Europa and carried her away to the island of Crete, where he revealed his true identity, and they had children together. The name Europa was later applied to the geographical region that includes modern-day Europe. The precise origins of the name and its application to the continent are not entirely clear, but it is believed to have been used by ancient Greeks to refer to the lands to the north and west of Greece. Over time, this name became associated with the entire continent. There are a number of theories. Taking a linguistic approach, some scholars believe Europe's name is descriptive in origin. Those who look to the ancient Greek language to parse its roots combine Eurus, meaning wide, and ops, meaning face or eye, to arrive at wide-gazing as an appropriate description of Europe's broad shoreline as seen from the shipboard perspective of the maritime Greeks. By extension, they believe this phrase connotes mainland. Adventurous travelers who got closer to the northern lands reported the existence of mountain systems and river basins that were much larger than those of the Mediterranean region, along with climates that were very different from those the Greeks experienced, not to mention expansive primeval forests and sweeping steppes. Other scholars have argued that the origin for the name Europe is to be found in the Semitic Akkadian language that was spoken in ancient Mesopotamia. They point to the Akkadian word Arabu, meaning sunset, and reason that, from the Mesopotamian perspective, the western setting sun descended on Europe. As a corollary, they cite the Akkadian word for sunrise, Ayasu, from which they believe the name Asia is derived. From a Mesopotamian ground zero, the eastern rising sun would have ascended from Asia. After being abandoned by Zeus on the shores of Crete, Europa found herself in a land unknown to her. Despite the initial shock and confusion, she displayed resilience and adaptability, quickly assimilating into the local culture and society. Europa's beauty and grace did not go unnoticed in Crete. King Asterius, the ruler of the island, was captivated by her charm and sought her hand in marriage. The myth of Europa is one of the most famous stories in Greek mythology and has been retold in various forms throughout history. Here's a more detailed version of the story. Europa was the daughter of King Agenor of Phoenicia, a region in the eastern Mediterranean. She was renowned for her extraordinary beauty, which caught the attention of Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, who happened to see her while she was gathering flowers near the shore. Impressed by her beauty, Zeus decided to approach her. To do so without alarming her, he transformed himself into a magnificent white bull. This bull was so majestic and gentle that Europa was not afraid and even approached it. She admired its beauty and eventually climbed onto its back. As soon as Europa was on his back, Zeus, in the form of the bull, swiftly dashed into the sea and swam to the island of Crete. There, he revealed his true identity to Europa and confessed his love for her. Europa, despite her initial shock, was captivated by Zeus's charm and divine presence. On Crete, Zeus and Europa became lovers, and she bore him several children, including Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon, who would later become legendary figures in Greek mythology. The myth of Europa has been interpreted in various ways. Some scholars suggest that it represents the cultural and economic exchange between the civilizations of the Eastern Mediterranean, represented by Europa, and those of the Greek world, represented by Zeus. Others see it as a metaphor for the adventurous spirit of exploration and discovery, which characterized ancient Mediterranean civilizations. Regardless of its interpretation, the story of Europa has left a lasting legacy, and her name continues to be associated with the continent of Europe to this day. The myth of Europa is rich with detail and has been recounted in various forms throughout history. Here's a continuation of the story. After settling in Crete, Europa and Zeus enjoyed a period of blissful companionship. However, their romance was not without challenges. Europa's father, King Agenor, distraught over his daughter's disappearance, dispatched her brothers in search of her. They traveled far and wide, but their efforts were in vain. Meanwhile, Europa and Zeus lived in contentment, surrounded by the beauty of Crete. Zeus showered Europa with gifts and bestowed upon her the honor of being the namesake of the continent that would come to be known as Europe. However, their idyllic existence was disrupted by Hera, Zeus's wife and queen of the gods. Consumed by jealousy and anger at Zeus's infidelity, Hera plotted to punish Europa. She sent a gadfly to torment the bull form of Zeus, causing it to become restless and eventually flee from Crete. As Zeus transformed back into his divine form, Europa found herself stranded on the shores of Crete, separated from her beloved. Despite her initial despair, Europa's resilience and courage shone through. Determined to make the best of her situation, she embraced her new surroundings and eventually found happiness in her new home. Europa's descendants, including her son Minos, went on to establish powerful kingdoms in Crete and beyond. The myth of Europa became woven into the cultural tapestry of ancient Greece, inspiring countless works of art, literature, and poetry. In later centuries, the story of Europa continued to resonate, symbolizing themes of love, adventure, and the enduring spirit of exploration. The name Europe endured as a testament to the enduring legacy of Europa and her remarkable journey across the seas. A competing theory locates the eponym for Europe in mythology, specifically in the many versions of stories about the goddess Europa, some of which date back millennia. One of the oldest versions identifies Europa as one of the Oceanides, the 3,000 sea nymphs who occupied a lower tier in the hierarchy of Greek mythology. Europa was one of only 41 of these minor deities who were thought worthy of naming. Other versions link Europa with Demeter, the goddess of earth and agriculture. Although it is not certain which name came first, it has been presumed that Europa was a local pre-Greek name for an earth goddess, whereas Demeter is a Greek or Greekified name for a more regional deity. In the best-known version of the Europa myth, Europa, the daughter either of Phoenix or of Agenor, king of Phoenicia, was abducted by Zeus, who had disguised himself as a white bull. Zeus spirited her away from Phoenicia to Crete, where she bore him 3 sons, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Sarpedon. No one knows for sure the origin of Europe's name, but it certainly stuck. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.